The Scarlet-Stringed Lyre by Leonard. The Carnotaurus had no redder scale compared to Captain Concordia's hair, whose scarlet curless strands behind her ailed, whose hair was flapping on the sea breeze air, who manned the wheel of the Athens Disdain, the ship that made the very weather change, the ship whose nose was aiming at the land, its bowsprit pointing at a port town's pier to find the boy who plucked and stole a strand of Captain Concordia's scarlet hair. Her former boatswain plucked it in her sleep because it was the reddest thing he'd ever seen. The Athens Disdain taxied into the port the languid way a nearing nightmare crawls. The tide adjusted sailboats back and forth, slow dancing in the pier. The quiet gulls, the dance's chaperones, refrained their cries as slowly the Athens Disdain arrived. How resolute its captain left the helm, descending down the stairs onto the deck with steps that moved the scabbard on her belt. With tension that adhered her crew's respect, she paused between the cannons, looking out upon the peaceful colonial town. Her hair reposed upon the shoulder guard, she wiggled off a Chinese pirate's corpse. That leather, blacker than the orcas are, had gold silk patterning her gift-wrapped form. And yet her uniform was not complete, because her hair was missing one thin, string-sized piece. Banana rum's medicinal fragrance perfumed between the taverns, inns, and shops. The captain walked amidst the nighttime's musk, and knew her thief was probably amongst those toasting from within the pub. She turned, approaching towards the door where laughter burst, and entered in the laughter's wake. How dim it was inside the crowded pub, until a splendid thing infatuated her. That was a lyre's sound that hushed the thrills of everybody in the crowded pub, of every pirate, whore, and cabin boy. Fantasia No. 7's closing bit performed gymnastics over every head in taming thunder heaven's clouds transmit. The captain lingered forth, interested to find the source behind the melody, but turned to stone at its discovery. Molasses had no smoother way to drip. How fast his hand perused the instrument, unearthing Eden notes that eased the ear, that made a pirate think that he was there before the apple broke between Eve's teeth. A string, as red as apples tend to be, appeared suspended in the lyre's bay. A string her hairbrush would have recognized was now dispensing things of higher planes, without permission from the cosmic skies, without permission from the captain, whose strawberry strand of hair the boy removed. It was him that the lyre answered to, whose strings obeyed his dancing fingertips. She saw her hair vibrate when it was plucked, and shivered on the sounds it now produced, unlike the rustling it made before, the rustling it made when it was hers. Captain Concordia produced her sword, and all at once the lyre's music stopped, and all the pirates stood and garnered forth the sound of flintlocks clicking in applause. But Captain Concordia didn't flinch, but kept her sword extended out at him. The boy who plucked her hair was too surprised to move at first. His former captain cringed. Annoyance gushed in her disapproving eyes. She knew, of course, her sword could halve the strings, and yet she didn't slice the strings in half because too long our hesitations last. The boy ascended off his stool and ran, the lyre tucked into his crossguard arm, with Concordia moshing through the dam of pirates that refused to let her pass. She leapt onto the tightrope countertop, surpassing all the hands that grabbed at her. Into the street, she got her balance back and looked to see the jungle take the boy. How ghoulish green the knotted branches crossed. She leapt into the jungle. Over roots, she trailed the sound his rushing footsteps made as nighttime's ink deluged the tropic maze. They crossed the jungle similar to deer that never crash into the countless trees. They hopped uphill where the flora cleared, where mighty masts of moonlight sulked. The sea beneath a cliff dispelled its briny scent. They ceased their chase above this height's descent, where the sea collapsed against the shore. He hugged his lyre, scarlet string ashine beneath his worried eyes, before her sword. He feared she wouldn't hesitate this time, where they stood atop the island's cliff, where he hugged his wicked instrument. A gust of wind's attempt to strum her hair retrieved no notes the way the lyre could, and Captain Concordia dropped her stare to see the thing, the horseshoe shape of wood, where 4 brown strings and 1 red string endured, and all reminded her what she had heard. She grabbed her hair and put it on her sword, and sliced until it bounced back on her chin, the strands like streamers from a solar storm, the freshly cut strands she handed over to him. Perplexed, his fingers broke the moonlight air and caught his former captain's scarlet hair. What phantom weight descended on his wrist to catch the veins of music in his hand that he'd transform into his lyre strings? The sea would miss the way her hair would dance. The gales would say she cut her hair too short, but now she knew the music in her hair belonged ashore. By a phantom change of heart his former captain had, the boy was saved upon her charity. The hair the ocean used to try to grab employed an ocean's lust within his reach. She watched his fingers curl into a creeping close as her neck was kissed by the wind, the ocean's ghost. An understanding lapsed between their eyes, equal so briefly on an island cliff. He shuddered, but she only moved her eyes. He, spellbound speechless on the pirate's gift, seriously possessed no words to say, as Captain Concordia backed away. And Concordia stepped onto her ship, her crew too shy to say a thing about her shortened hair. In fact, she liked her pixie cut, her trim. She moseyed back onto the helm, the wheel she always steered, and gave the shout to backwards out of port, and heard one sweet interrupting sound before the Athene disdain left the shore.